Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. This video was made as a celebration of 20 years of Java Annotations. Why and how Java Annotations have been around for 20 years, and why JAPO, what is that about, and why is it showing up only now after over 20 years. We will start with a very quick summary about the origins of Java Annotations. And then we will see how annotations have become an essential part of Java, thanks to the widespread use of annotations processors. However, with such popularity, a few common challenges started to arise and faced by the Java developers. We will discuss those challenges, which will then bring us to the introduction of Java Annotations Repo, a tool designed to help developers face these challenges. We will finish this session with a demo of JAPO, during which we will be exploring the very common use cases and scenarios every Java developers goes through in their day-to-day tasks when they deal with annotations. My name is Mohamed. I am a Java developer and software architect. Putting together some years of experience in Java development led me to start two open source projects back in 2021. And then from October of 2023, I put together a very small team of passionate Java developers and we started JAPO, which is today known as the world's first search engine dedicated exclusively to Java annotations. Initially introduced as metadata instead of annotations, this feature was added back in September of 2004. It was released on the Java specification request number 175 and part of Java version 5, also known as Java 1.5 at the time. So when you think about it, it's been a full 20 years since annotations were first made available in Java. And as Java developers, we all saw how these have become very successful tools in the Java world during all these years. Here on this slide, you have some of the most known Java libraries and frameworks showcasing the use of the concept of annotations. So this is typically how you will see many of the enterprise-grade Java applications written today. But then, as this trend started to grow in popularity, we started seeing hundreds of annotations being offered from all sides. And with that, a set of problems started arising. With hundreds of annotations being offered from all sides, it quickly started taking longer to Java developers whenever they research detailed information on one annotation. Let's take one example here. We just saw on the previous slide a set of code coming from Spring Framework, a very known framework and library in Java. There is this very popular annotation from Spring named the qualifier, which is very known by many. But then, let's say a junior Java developer gets into a code where he encounters that annotation and then he doesn't know what that's about. What a typical developer will do in that case will be to jump to a classic search engine such as Google and enter the name of the annotation there. Now, it's not guaranteed that the very first search result is going to be about the qualifier annotation or even any concept related to programming. Okay. And even if you encounter an annotation named qualifier, besides Spring Framework, there are also two other frameworks, such as MapStruct and also Jakarta Enterprise Edition, which offer the same annotation names. So having to go to several search results and having to even open the official documentation of each library in order to know the differences and so on takes you minutes. It might sound like just minutes, and it's fine. But then think about that: if you have tens or 20 annotations within the same class, minutes per annotation being wasted will end up impacting your productivity. Another challenge faced by the Java developers is when it comes to naming a new custom annotation which they are creating by themselves. With the big amount of libraries offering the same annotation names, if you would like to come up with a new name such as qualifier, the example we just gave now, then knowing early that 3 other libraries offer the same annotation name might actually help you rethink your name and maybe come up with a more original annotation name. Now, let's think about it in a different way. What if the annotation name you are interested in is already taken by one existing library, but then in one of the previous versions of the library, that annotation was deprecated? That might actually be an opportunity for you to make use of that name then. So getting to know all of these details by first making use of a typical search engine and then having to go through the official documentation of the library and then find out that the annotation is deprecated could all burn your productivity time. We deeply analyzed all of these challenges faced by the Java developers and decided to come up with a possible solution. Some sort of advanced search engine which will be dedicated exclusively to Java annotations. We named it Java Annotations Repo, or JAPO for short. JAPO is essentially a REST API. All services offered by JAPO target the Java developers. So we really want it to be reachable in all the many flexible ways possible. And then we started expanding the product from there by adding a web page, which is simply a gate leading your request to the API. And then we recently added a plugin for IntelliJ IDEA, which is currently one of the most popular IDEs on the market. We will see that plugin in action when we get to the demo section. As of July of this year, the latest version of JAPO offers the following features. The annotation search, which allows you to search by annotation simple name or also qualified name. You can also search for multiple annotation names within a single request, or also perform the annotations smart search, which is the latest introduced feature. For each search type, a match operation is performed. This could either be a partial match, prefix match, suffix match, or even exact match, depending on which search or feature you are making use of. And then whenever your search returns annotations data, JAPO always makes use of artificial intelligence, AI, to generate code samples for every annotation returned in your search result. AI is also used to provide annotation name suggestions when you perform an annotation smart search. Apart from the search feature offered by JAPO, JAPO also offers the stats feature, which is very useful for custom annotations creators. Also, there is the possibility to view Maven artifact release update through a calendar or receive those updates by email. And to finish, JAPO also offers the possibility to submit annotations. Here is a rough presentation of some of the most common use cases, along with some scenarios, all mixed up together, along with some additional details. This is some sort of workflow, which can also serve as documentation to help you understand how JAPO works. We will explore together each one of the highlighted use cases and some of their scenarios in the demo section. Starting with the use case of discovering annotations using JAPO plugin. What we really mean here is about searching for annotation details right from your project, from the very popular IDE, which is IntelliJ, and assuming you already have the JAPO plugin installed. So when it comes to searching for an annotation or annotations information, detailed information, you have two ways to perform so using the JAPO plugin. We're gonna go through those slides, and later we're gonna move to the application, the plugin itself, to show you how it works. So the first way you can research information regarding annotations from your project is by researching information regarding all of the annotations which are present within one of your project's file, from either the Project Explorer section, which you see here in the left section, or from the editor section. Now, the second way to research for information regarding, in that case, a specific annotation, which will be a single annotation in that case, no longer a list of them, will be from your IntelliJ editor by selecting the desired annotation and clicking one of the options there. We're gonna see all that to the demo. Now, assuming you have this project right here, which is a typical Spring Boot data JPA project. It's a sample project we use for one of our open source libraries. In case you are interested, you can check on our GitHub repository for this code. So what happened here is we have a code which is basically a Spring data JPA code, as you can see here, but then with additional annotations, which you see here, and which might seem new to you because those are part of one of our open source libraries. So, assuming that you are one of these developers who don't know much about any of these annotations you are looking at here, and you want to have an idea which are the annotations present within this file and what are detailed information about them in case there are any. You can then go straight to this Project Explorer section where you right click on the file you are interested in this case, this one right here, which is open here, but we choose to run the search from here, from the Project Explorer section. So by doing a right click like this and then clicking here at the bottom of this pop-up menu, you have Scan with JAPO. So once you click the Scan with JAPO, after selecting the file, and then you look at the plugin session here in the right session, you will see that what really happens here is that all of the annotations which are listed within the file, as you can see here, there are some used here on top of this interface, but there are also some of them which are part of some of the string literals. And even if your annotation is part of comments that you left in your code, it will also be detected and taken into account by JAPO. So within the search field of JAPO plugin, you have the list of all of the annotations which are present within your file. And the submit button has also been automatically clicked in that case because you click the scan with JAPO button, and the result of this search is what you see down here. Now, what really happens here is, as you saw on the previous slide, we just mentioned that we could perform the multi-annotation search, which is a way to search for multiple annotations within a single request. This is exactly what happened here after we selected scan with JAPO. So here, as we mentioned, for each one of the annotations you have within your file, if matches are found, you have code samples which are returned, which you see to one of the links here. And next to it, you have another link. Those are actually hyperlinks. As you can see, you can click on them. We will do that shortly. There is also the hyperlink of view, which allows you to view the details of the annotation that was found. So this being a multi-annotation search, we are only dealing with an exact match type of operation here for each one of the annotations present within the file, whether simple name or qualified name, as you can see with this one here. Now, before we go to the details of where those links are taking us, let's discuss the second way of searching for an annotation information. In this case, we are talking about searching for a single annotation. So let's choose any of those. Let's say down here we have the query annotation, and we do a right click and do search with JAPO. What will happen in that case is that because we selected only one word, you will have only that word here, not all of the annotations present in the file, but that will be only the one you selected. It can be any other word. It doesn't have to be specifically an annotation. If you select any other existing word there and you do search with JAPO, you will have that expression move to the search field as well. Now, going back to our query search, you surely notice the difference here. Why do we have a different type of search result compared to when we searched for, I'm gonna do that once again, scan with JAPO here. You see there is a big difference here. Why is because when you perform the multiple annotation search like this, you are actually performing an exact match search, which is something we already mentioned. Now, when you perform a single annotation search using the search with JAPO option we just saw now, this is no longer an exact match search happening, but by default, a partial match search is performed. which means all of the search results will be annotations name which contain the search criteria you put in there, which is query in that case. So this is the default behavior, and as you can see here, the search results are returned alphabetically, but the match operation that was performed here, being a partial match, you will have the query word appear in different section here. Now, if you are interested in having only, let's say, only the annotations name starting with the selected name here, you can just go ahead and select this option here, which is start with. So you do, once you click on it, the search is automatically reloaded and then re-triggered, and then you have the result here. So if you're looking for anything ending with query, you just click on end with, and then you have here all of the annotations that are ending in query. Now let's take a look at where these two links take us. Let's focus on the latest entry here, which is query. Now it's interesting to see that we have actually two annotations which belong to two artifacts, which really means here one annotation in one artifact each, which carry the same name, query. Okay, we just mentioned an example like that with another annotation when we were talking about the challenges. This is just one of those. Now, if you click the view button, that will take you actually to JAPO web page. So you are actually exiting the plugin and finding yourself here where you will have detailed information regarding the search criteria you entered in the plugin. So what this tells us here is that there are actually, as we just saw, two annotations with the same name query. And here in the item sections, you have the details regarding these two annotations. Well, I just collapsed them, and let's now check them one by one. The first one here is the query annotation offered by the Jakarta data repository library. Along with that name, you have then other information, detailed information such as the Java doc URL, which leads you straight to the Java doc of that specific annotation. In this case, the query annotation from Jakarta data library. So once we are back to JAPO window here, you have other important things such as here you have the code sample link. Now, this link is slightly different from the link we just saw from the plugin. We're gonna leave this for later when we get to that. And apart from the annotation information, you also have detailed information about the Maven artifact or library, if you want, which it belongs to. So you have the group ID, artifact name, latest version, release date. Those are all information that will allow you to identify the artifact and know exactly which one you are dealing with. Besides that, you also have an interesting information here, which is the total amount of annotations offered by that artifact. Now, back to the code sample link. Here you have a URL which is pointing at only the ID of this specific annotation. If you click this URL, it will indeed take you to a separate page where you have a code, Java code generated for that specific annotation, along with possible comments to help you understand exactly what that annotation is about and how it can be used. We took you to this page going from the detailed information page of a specific annotation. But if you will go back to the plugin itself and click the code sample link, which shows up besides the search result returned, you will see a slightly different behavior, even though there will be some similarities. What happens here is that we have a specific case where we have two annotations in two different artifacts. So you might be wondering what will the code sample show in that case. If you click here, you will have a page similar to the previous one which we just saw. But the real idea here was to allow you guys to be able to view within one single page code sources generated from all of the match found in your search. Which means here you have Jakarta data repository query with its source code, and below you have also the Spring data JPA query annotation, which is actually the one we are using in our code. So this gives you an idea more or less how each look like, and you can even perform some sort of visual comparison and so on, and have an idea which kind of annotations you are dealing with precisely. Right. With time, we will start adding improvement to this page so that you can put code side by side, vertically instead of horizontally, so that I can really help you with the comparison here. Now, back to the search result, which return all of the annotation based on the name we entered, which is in this case query. We just saw the details of the first entry return, which is Jakarta data repository, but there is also the second entry here, which is actually the one we are dealing with right now, which is the Spring Framework data JPA. So this is it regarding basically the sort of information you can get, detailed information you can get about each annotation once you perform the search, whether you perform a partial match search or prefix match search and so on. The results returned here are formatted basically the same way for all, so the navigation will be simply the same, right? And it won't be too difficult for you guys to find out. Now that we just saw the case of match found, right? Like you entered something and then that annotation exists in JAPO database and then it's returned with code samples and detailed information. What happens if the annotation we entered doesn't exist either in JAPO database or doesn't exist at all in Java? That will take us to the second use case. Now, when it comes to matches not found or unrecognized annotation, as we call it here, you have the possibility to have JAPO suggest any other annotations names based on what you entered as search criteria. That's something that can help in case you want to research and make sure whether the annotation exists really or not. Now, we're gonna perform that by going straight to JAPO. Assuming we have this other class here, we're gonna skip this class here because it's a little bit too big, as you can see. So we're gonna move to a simpler class where you have very few annotations. So let's just quickly perform a scan here, and you will see that we will have the list of only 3 annotations here. So assuming we enter something, let's go straight here. Let's keep only one of the annotations, maybe only the third one, and enter here JAPO 123. Okay, just like this. We all know this doesn't exist as an annotation, and typically annotations are not named like that. So what you will typically have here is no match found. And we agree that we are in the case of multi-annotation search because we listed many of them separated by space, and that's how you get to the multi-annotation search. So JAPO 1234 is a no match found for sure. Now, how would you get JAPO to consider what you entered here and provide suggestions based on that? Is simply by activating what we have here, named Smart Search. Once you check this box and click the Submit button, there is a different type of search which is performed here. And in this case, what really happened here is that for each one of the search criteria you entered here and listed here, separated by spaces, you will have all sort of match operations performed, starting with exact matches, and then partial match, prefix match, and suffix match. Same for all the terms you entered here. So starting with this, we left this one here as an example to show this actually. So you see we have one exact match. And as you can see, the one here is a hyperlink. So if you click that button, it will take you to the same detailed page we just saw now for the other annotation. And then if you click the code samplers, it will take you to the code sampler page for this specific annotation. Same thing with the other type of matches, all of them being hyperlinks, they will take you there. Now let's get back to this section here, which is where we have 0 exact match, which is normal. This doesn't exist. But then what happened is that JAPO attempts to suggest annotation names, making use of what you entered here. It might not be exactly precise suggestions, like existing suggestions. As we know, we don't think there is an existing annotation named JavaDoc, but somehow, because JAPO had to provide 3 suggestions, it attempted to get something. The 2 next annotations here are pretty well known from Jackson XML. Those are used a lot, very popular. Now, you might be wondering how this happens. What really happens behind the scenes is JAPO is making use of artificial intelligence, AI, to pull whatever names could be close enough to what you entered and really exist as annotation. Now, with the AI naming suggestions, you can try to play around it and get some interesting stuff, which we're gonna try here. Let's say I am, let's say, in a rush, and I just wanna find out whether or not there are any annotation names written the same way as the deprecated annotation, which is a very well-known annotation in Java. But then you just want to do a quick check, not that you needed to do some coding and all, and you are in a rush. So you can just go ahead and enter some sort of abbreviated versions of the annotation name. You don't even have to know exactly how it's written. You can just enter something like this. And this is for deprecated. Let's try the same thing for override. Those are very well-known applications from Java Standard Edition. So like this. And we're gonna try something else interesting here. If we go back quickly to this code here, and right now we just had we just discussed the case of the query annotation. So let's take the case of the param annotation, right, to show you quickly how this is being used. As a reminder, that's an annotation that's used for each parameter, which are part of the signature of a Spring Data JPA interface method. Now, what I want to do here is see the qualified name of param. We agree this is long. And nowadays, so many libraries, especially the login libraries, are adopting this, are making use of what we know as the abbreviated form of these qualified names. So let's pass that abbreviated form to JAPO and see what happens with the help of AI. So here we are really talking about just the initials. When I say abbreviated form, I'm really talking about the initials of each part of the qualified name. So that will be O.S.D.R.Q.P, like that. just to see what happened. So Smart Search is selected. We click submit and let's give it some time and see what happened. Okay. So when it comes to deprecated, of course, there are 0 exact matches, but JAPO, making use of AI behind the scenes, attempted to get us some possibly existing annotation names which are close enough to what we entered. So that will be deprecated, which we know. And he attempted with deprecate and deprecated ID. Okay. I'm not sure if those exist yet. I haven't seen them in other libraries, but they could be. When it comes to override, it performed the same thing, I would say nicely. Yeah, override, overload, and overriding. And now, when it comes to the abbreviated form we entered, it's interesting to see that he attempted to actually find exactly what we were dealing with here, which is interesting. And besides that, I think by making use of this queue here, he attempted to create, to suggest also query besides param, and actually they are both under the same package. And a third suggestion, because there must always be 3 suggestions, I think there is a little bit of forcing there. He attempted to create, to suggest another annotation name here based on what we entered. Now, you might be wondering, okay, we have suggestions. What can be done with them and all? As you can see, each one of those suggestions are hyperlinks as well. So when you click each, you will see that the word which you click is used into the search field instead of the existing text that was there before. Now, when you click once, it replaces it. But then in case you want to append words, all you have to do is to leave a space by the end and then keep clicking and you will have words being appended. If you want to go back to your search query, all you have to do is to click on this original query here and then you have the original one here. So this is basically how you can play with the smart search feature of JAPO. Now, we just saw the case where you have the possibility to have name suggestions made for your search criteria in case it doesn't exist in JAPO. But then there is also the possibility for you to notify JAPO of that missing annotation, which we don't have yet. Okay, new annotations come up almost every week, every month. So anything new can be out there and we don't know about. So it will be good for you guys to go to JAPO and let us know about that by simply going to the JAPO web page. Well, let's get there. And then going to this endpoint right here, API submission. And you simply have to fill up this form with the information you have regarding that annotation or those annotations. It can be an entire list. You will have to enter the repo URL where the annotation or the library of that annotation can be found. You also have to enter the group ID and artifact ID so that we can identify that library within that repository. And here, simply list the qualified names of each one of those. Once we receive this, we review, and once validated, we will add the annotations and libraries to our database, to JAPO database. Now, let's move to the next use case, which is about custom annotations. When it comes to choosing names for your own annotations which you are working on, either for your internal projects or for something you are about to publish, you might surely think of coming up with an original name, okay, which would be great if possible. If not, if the name is already used and all, how do you get to know that? I guess by using Google, any typical search engine and all. But then JAPO offers some interesting stuff. Let's go to the page When you go to JAPO web page here, you will see here on the left section these vertical sections here where we stocked up what we call stats, simply called stats. Those are interesting numbers and data that can help you when it comes to choosing a name for your custom annotation. Some of the important ones here are, here you have the list of all annotation names used by more than one artifact. So that means we just saw the case now of query and qualifier. Those are annotations that are in more than one artifact. So this list you have here, which is written by JAPO, which is a paginated list, because here you can see we already have 65 entries. This is gonna list you all of these annotations and also indicate you the amount of libraries or artifacts in which you can find them. So here we have generated in 3 artifacts, immutable in 3, map key in 3, and so on. So the entire list you're gonna have here will be only of those annotations which can be found in more than one artifact. Another interesting list, you can click either from here or choose from this list, which is the same. There is also the list of deprecated annotations, and this is interesting because this is the list of all deprecated annotations regardless of the framework or library or artifact where it's found. So think about that. If you're about to choose a name for your annotation and then you come here and find out that, let's say for example, managed bin is a name you want to use for your stuff, and then you find out that it exists already, part of Jakarta in this case, but it's already deprecated. So maybe an opportunity for you to use the same name, or maybe to slightly rename it in some ways. And another list that can help you when it comes to naming your annotation will be the Java built-in annotations. Those are the list of all of the annotations which are part of Java Standard Edition. Right now there are not too many, only 11. But yes, it would be good to know that if, for example, you wanna create, let's say, a deprecated or override or functional interface annotation for your own use, and then you find out that Java already has those, maybe you can rename them slightly or, well, make any other decision, right? So those are the 3 main stats features that will help you choose a name for your annotations when you are creating one. Let's go back to the slide. And here we are attempted to summarize them by assuming this is your annotation name right here. So one of the 3 ways JAPO will help you choose a name is by helping answer these questions, which is the annotation name already present in any existing Java library? Or is the name already present but deprecated? Or is it already present within Java Standard Edition, which is what we just show you now? Alright, so apart from helping you choosing a name for your annotation, following these 3 guidelines here, JAPO also allows you to notify or to provide information regarding your annotation and even the library your annotation will be released for ahead of the release of that specific annotation. We describe this use case here by generalizing any sort of changes you make, whether it's for a new annotation being created or updating an existing one, and whether this is regarding official or public open source project like any of those we listed here, or your own. We assume they are all the same, they all go through the same flow, which we're gonna summarize here simply, very simply. And of course, each company has its own detailed flows and all. So typically, when you will make a change, whether this is about creating a new annotation or updating an existing one. Once you perform your changes, create the pull request, and the pull request is accepted and merged, typically what will happen here is that the release process for the artifact you are working for is typically left to another team, or maybe just another person of the same team, where we are really talking about publishing the library in this case, whether to Maven Central repository or any other. Typically, it's not the same developer who did that who gets to that level, even though some of them do that too. So what happens here is we want to find a way to retain every single change that has been made to any existing annotation in any existing Java library. Or even if this annotation we are talking about is a brand newly created one, we still want to retain those changes somewhere in JAPO for all Java developers to see and be updated. What happened here is it will be too time consuming and really complex to go to every single existing library and go inside the jar files or checking the GitHub pages of every single open source library to find out what the changes are and then store them into JAPO. So we added a possibility from JAPO for you guys, the developers, because the developers are the one who know exactly what has been done as changes. We offer that possibility for you guys to notify JAPO by providing all of the detailed changes you made to the annotations or created annotations to JAPO to this endpoint, which is the API update endpoint. This endpoint, which is here, is pretty similar to the submission one, which is you will see the same information, basically the group ID and artifact ID. And here you will just have to list all of the annotations names along with the changes, the details of the changes you made. It's just a freeform text. We're gonna take the time to read all of it and understand what you are trying to communicate there. Now the only difference here is we have this scheduled publishing date, which is in case you are working on a library such as Spring Framework, Hibernate, contributing to those open source projects and all, and you really don't have a clear idea when will the next version of the library released and which will contain your changes, you can just go ahead and enter any sort of date here. Okay, it can be any date in the future. Typically, you will have an idea of the month and the year, but not the exact date. You can choose that month and enter it here. We will take the time to review everything, research everything before adding that information to JAPO database so that once the library is out with your changes, the users, JAPO users, will be informed through the page or receiving notifications. So this is it regarding custom annotations, how you can choose a correct name for them and also notify JAPO of their changes or their release even ahead of the release date, the exact release date in that case. And the next use case here is really about staying updated. You know, when we talk about staying updated, we're really talking about any annotation is really always part of a Java library. In this case, we also say artifact, Maven artifact. And what JAPO is trying to do here is to help every Java developer, every team, to always be updated regarding the latest version of any library which contains annotation. There are currently two ways you can get those updates. The first way is by simply going to the JAPO web page. Here, to the right section, you have a calendar which is updated daily. If there is any new change, so let's say, for example, here in the month of October, On the 16th, for example, if you click here, you go down here, you will see that on the 16th of October, both Mockito Core and Mockito JUnit Jupyter had some new releases. Once you click the Maven artifact listed there, you will have the details of those releases. And here in this white section, if there was any sort of annotation update provided by a developer who worked on that release, you will see them here. In this case, we don't have any. And actually, right now, for almost all of the annotations, we don't have annotations update yet. That will come when the developers start communicating to the endpoint we just saw now. So this is basically it. Just something simple for you to know that on this specific day, this specific library had a new release, and you should then update your own project if you are using that library. So this calendar is easy to navigate. You can go backward in the past to see that, for example, here in September, there were more releases, same in August, and even way back in the past. Now, instead of coming to the JAPO webpage and viewing the calendar like this and identifying the update and clicking on them and all, you can choose to receive those updates directly into your mailbox. To do so, all you have to do is to enter your email ID here and click the submit button. It's a very simple process. You will have then to go to your mailbox to confirm your registration by just clicking one link. And from that moment, every day, if there is a new release or new update, you will be receiving details of those updates into your mailbox directly. And the emails will look something really similar to what you see here. So that's it about how after over 20 years, we finally came up with a product, a tool that will help boost Java developers' productivity, mainly by gaining time, a lot of time, while searching for detailed information regarding Java annotations, and also by gaining great helpful insights when it comes to handling custom annotations. Nothing is perfect. There are surely some hidden bugs and several ways to improve things and get to make JAPO almost the ideal companion assisting the Java developer in their day-to-day tasks. Please make use of it and leave us comments, suggestions, even questions either to this video or by going to our webpage where we have recently added a feedback form, or also directly writing to us to our mailbox anytime. Your feedback will be very helpful for the future of this product. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. Bye.